with Dave, and then we're gonna go ahead and Mary, you do a slow, roll call. if you would,
Roll
please.
call.
Mr.
There we go.
Mr. Lopez.
President.
I don't do anything slow,
I
sorry.
It sounds good in theory, but I'm just
Mr. Hannah,
here.
Mr. Wright. And Mrs. Carrington.
Okay, should we start a little bit of the IBM, or do you want to?
There he is.
Hi,
Perfect timing,
Hey,
Taylor.
Mr. Kirby, are you here?
I am here.
Okay.
Perfect timing. That was awesome. We were doing a slow roll there.
Very good. My babysitter was finishing a very important student council meeting where important matters of state, no doubt, were being discussed.
You know what? Priorities are the number one thing. So we're gonna do the IBM presentation
You like,
first.
that's perfect, and Dr. Strong is here.
You bet. He's ready and up
Yes,
and
sir.
ready for action.
Thank you, Dr.
We good? We good? We good? Nope.
Yes.
There you are.
All right. Perfect. Oh, there we go. Go ahead. Mr. President, members of the board, we are here this evening to keep the governing board aware and up to date on what's happening with IBM. For your information, a request from the staff in the interest-based negotiation to get out of the acronym process last year occurred to try to start this process earlier. And Dr. Battle, when I came on board, said that we should probably make some progress in the fall on the IBM processes. And so that's where we're at. We had our first IBM meeting right before fall break, kicked it off. And the big point of the first meeting is to just level set with base knowledge for everyone on the IBM team. Then over fall break, one of the pieces of feedback from the IBM team was they were interested in running a practice of electing members, the 8 certified staff, the 5 classified staff, the 1 related staff person in the HR department. Mr. Casey ran that process, collected names, and then a vote was taken on certified staff representatives that was administered by the CGEA so that we could get down to 8 certified staff as per policy. The policy doesn't outline that a vote has to occur, but rather it's just past practice. So we wanted to honor past practice request from IBM. So now IBM meeting number 2 is coming up tomorrow, and we are going to continue to work through the process. And the most pressing issue that we're going to address tomorrow, the number 1 agenda item, is performance-based pay and Fund 10. And this issue probably needs to be solved with IBM and this governing board within the next month, because one of the pay for performance call-outs that Dr. Even led with the staff members and committee on the pay for performance side is that certain staff classifications want a December payout and want a May payout. And in order to have a December payout, we really got to get down to amounts and what is the PFP amount. And so I'm going to take you through the PFP, the Classroom Site Fund portion of the IBM presentation from September, so you all are level set with the same information that IBM had, right? I'm not going to take you through the M&O budget update stuff. You should be generally aware of the M&O budget update because it comes to you anyway. And maybe that's what we reserve for the December board meeting. What's our budget position in 22-23 current year? What's our budget position in 23-24? And maybe how much leftover monies are there to do stuff with for compensation and benefits packages. So does that all make sense to you?
Yeah, and then just clarification. They want to pay out in December?
PFP for certain job classifications, the committee has requested for a December payout for a proportion of funds as based on what they've qualified for at that point. So a portion is whether you have your 4 hours, and now I'm getting into Dr. Evans' world, whether you have your 4 hours of professional development complete. If they complete their 4 hours of professional development, we need documentation that they've done that. That documentation then goes over to HR and payroll, and that is worth, I think if I know right, 30% of their payout. 30% of what payout? The what payout is what we don't know yet. We have not said.
That's the bottom line question though, isn't it? Because the 301 money is actual total dollars don't come in until when?
Total dollars for the whole entire year rolling monthly. I think this is your question. So we get 1/12 of the PFP amount every month across the whole year. So that's
exactly, I just want to make sure.
perfect. Okay. All right. So IBM preparation for 23-24. Although we have some issues to solve for 22-23, like classroom site fund, we are telling the IBM team we're early in the process. We're trying to plan out compensation and benefits packages for 23-24 all at the same time. So we're trying to do 22-23 work and 23-24 work all at the same time. And so we gave this to them as agenda. We wanted to get through classroom site fund. We wanted to get through where our M&O positions were and our capital positions in the district. And the one I'm going to take you through this evening, to be brief, is the classroom site fund side of things, Fund 10. And my goal is to talk to you about revenue sources. Where do we get classroom site fund from? Old law. There was an old law prior to 2021. We rewrote a new law, Mason Public Schools, myself, at Queen Creek at the time, and Lanham Berry and Champion 5 wrote a new law, and talk to you a little bit about what that new law does. Solvency comparisons across districts. And then we put in front of them 3 possible solutions. With classroom site fund, there's a multitude of solutions that the IBM team could try to recommend. And so I need you to know everything in between is also a possibility. And then short-term projections as well. So just a little brief history on 301. 301 passed in 2000. It's 0.6% sales tax on transaction privilege taxes. In 2018, legislative renewal extended it 20 years. It's good till 2041. Little side note, when it was legislatively renewed, it removed the voter protection clause that was in the original bill. And therefore, the downside of having it legislatively approved as opposed to having it voter approved in 2018 was that now all the funds that are garnered for classroom site fund count towards the AEL, the aggregate expenditure limit. And it's one of the reasons we're over the aggregate expenditure limit as a state of Arizona. And another reason the state legislature will need to act this spring on the aggregate expenditure limit. And by that, I mean, they will need to act this spring on the aggregate expenditure limit and not leave districts out in the okay? So prior to, and I know this slide is very text-based, and I apologize for that, but it was the only way to get all the detail in there. Prior to 2021, there were 3 funds, Fund 11, Fund 12, Fund 13. Fund 11 accounted for 20% of the funds distributed. So say a district was to get 10, let's go 10, easy math, $10 million in classroom site fund based on sales tax revenues that came in. $2 million would go into Fund 11. That $2 million was supposed to support base salary. $4 million, 40%, would go into performance-based pay. And districts were expected to set up performance-based pay programs for instructional-based people funded out of function code 1000. And then 40% were expected to get paid out of a menu of things, not expected to be paid. The district could use 40% of the money, $4 million, for a variety of things, including paying people, but also including class size reduction, also including offsetting operation expenditures, dropout prevention programs, teacher liability programs, things along those lines. So 40% had to go to PFP, 20% had to go to base salary, and then you had an option on what to use the other 40% for. In 2021, we passed this bill. The bill basically took all those funds, combined them into one Fund 10, and then gave districts 2 flexibilities that weren't prior afforded. One, there was no derivation, there was no statutory language that suggested what amount had to go to PFP. That's first. You just have to have a PFP program, okay? But no amount. So you're going to see districts from here on out, and it's going to vary. Typically, in most districts, in prior years, your PFP amount was $3,000, $3,500, $2,500. But you're going to see districts now that their PFP program is $250. You're going to see districts whose PFP program is $3,000. You might see a district say, hey, we're going to do it all in PFP and give out $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, depending on how much revenues come in. The point and why would we want that flexibility in a bill? 99% of teachers were throughout the whole state of Arizona were getting their PFP monies, okay? Districts were setting up programs that had hurdles that people had to qualify for, right? Things they had to do, but they were designed so that people eventually got their money. And it makes sense. I told the IBM team, it makes sense that districts design these programs. We're funded 48th in the nation. We're funded 48th in the nation. Teacher pay in the state of Arizona is the lowest of any state in the nation, practically. Maybe Mississippi falls behind us. So when you design a program that's funded with TPT taxes, Fund 10, right? And you say, hey, this can support teacher pay, but you need a PFP program. It would make sense you design a PFP program where the vast majority of teachers can qualify because your base salaries are so low, okay? So the idea of this is if 99% of the people are getting the money anyways, it's really not a pay for performance program, it's really modeled more like a bonus program. So just allow districts to put it into base pay, so you can start to attract more teachers to the state of Arizona and say, no, our teacher salaries really, our beginning teacher salary is really 50,000, 55,000, 60,000. And then the other component that we added to law was that it could go to help with student support services categories. Those are function code 1900 and 2100. Essentially, instructional excellence coaches in this district, they are function code 1900. They support students, they support instruction. And you used to not be able to pay them out of Fund 10. You now can pay them out of Fund 10 if you desire to do that. You don't have to. You can pay them out of Fund 1, M&O. You can pay out other funds, but now it at least allows you the flexibility. So the big thing here, last two slides, 6/10 of the sales tax, 6/10 of the sales tax. And then also we have more options on what we can do with Fund 10. That was covered with the IBM team. One thing I need to note on sales tax is in really strong state tax systems, you have a 3-pronged tax system. You collect income tax, you collect property tax, and you collect TPTs. And the stool is really firm. Then there's other states who collect less income tax, less property tax, and they're primarily founded on sales tax. That stool gets a little wobbly. The reason I'm saying that is this is based on sales tax. The stool for this fund is really wobbly. It goes up when sales tax revenues are great. It goes down when sales tax revenues are bad. As an example, in fiscal year 2008, the state doled out $501 million in CSF funds, right? That was $401 per ADM, per student. ADM really isn't students, but it's easier just to communicate with you, $401 per student. I want you to notice in this slide, as I told the IBN, 2008, that's what was doled out. When was the next time we hit $401 per student? The next time we hit $401 per student was in school year 2019, right? It took 12 school years after the Great Recession to get back to the same per student funding amount. That's because sales tax is wobbly. You go into a recession, it's going to decline. You go out of a recession, it's going to increase. Now, right now, you're saying, oh, we're about to head into a recession as an economy, and I pay attention to the national economic picture, right? But consumption's still high right now, super high, and inflation's hitting us. So you combine those two factors, I really think it's going to be a really good SY24 for this fund. I think school year 24 is going to be fine for this fund. We'll see. You can hold me accountable and drop me an email if I'm wrong, right? Hey, you were right on that. But with consumption still going on and inflation going up, I think $708 per student, which is way over here on the right, it might hold pretty tight this upcoming year. I'm not really worried about SY24. I get a little more worried when consumption goes down and they get a hold of this inflation thing and prices come down, because sales tax then will naturally come down. So that's why 25, 26, 27 are where I start to go, okay, let's make sure we're well planned. Good? Okay. One thing here, you need to know the amount back in 15 for Casa Grande Union and Fund 10 was 1.45 million. We are now collecting about 3.6 million, 3.586 million in this fund this year. So when something is wobbly like that, when it's got more variance, when sales tax revenues have more variance, what do most districts do? Most districts try to make that fund have a little bit of solvency in it. They try to plan for future downturns in sales tax. Okay, and I'm just speaking factually here. I'm not, decisions that were made prior were made prior. All I'm trying to give you is the data so you understand our current position. Our current position on our 21 AFRs, we had $184,072 in that account as savings. Okay, that's across 4,836 ADM last year, and that gives us about $38 in savings per student. Other districts, not saying they're doing right and this district's doing wrong, just fact. Other districts have different savings amounts. Chandler Unified has $20 million saved up in this fund, $20.5 million saved up in this fund. Of course, they have 52,000 students, right? So they should have a little bit more, but that's $389 per ADM, okay? Over on the right, I want you to notice the percent of their allotment from this year that they have in a savings account. So $20 million saved up out of $37 million is what Chandler gets every year from classroom site funds. Means they have 55% of their annual revenues saved. That's approximately 55% of 12 months. You're talking about they have 6 to 7 months worth of savings. If all revenues dried up today, They could last 6 to 7 months and nothing occur to payouts to people. Good so far? Go up to 5.1%. We have 5.1% of our annual revenues saved in this account. 5.1% of annual revenue saved is approximately 3 weeks worth of savings. We could last for 3 weeks if all our revenues dried up. Sales tax went away tomorrow. We can last for 3 weeks in this fund. So what I try to tell IBN, as I try to tell IBN, listen, it's the decisions that were made in the past to get monies out of this fund and into people's pockets. There's no harm in that, but it has put the picture of the district where it's currently at, okay? And it's a little bit of a solvency picture. And that is, if sales tax goes down, this fund's in a little bit of a poor position. Now, the good news to that, let me tell you the good news. The good news is this district in the M&O fund has saved one-time money that cannot go to salaries and benefits of people because it's one-time money, okay? And this right here, by the way, is one-time money. You save it in a year, it's one-time money. It's only gonna buy Chandler a certain amount of time before they need revenues to start coming in. It's one-time money. And this district's done a very good job on the M&O side of saving carry forward to the tune of $8.2 million to protect yourself. If a downturn comes in sales tax revenue, all you have to do is shift the funding source for payroll from Fund 10 to Fund 101, and you can start hitting Fund 101 so you don't affect people at home, right? That's one of the reasons you have to have $8.2 million in carry forward. And this is a very, very tough picture to convince people of. They see you have extra money. That extra money was created because of things like vacancy savings. Vacancy savings being something like you had a job that, was someone resigned and it wasn't filled for 2 months. And guess what? That 2 months worth of savings saved you $10,000. You can't take that $10,000 and then all of a sudden say, we're gonna give raises because someone's out of a job because we had a vacant job for 2 months. You can't do it. And the reason you can't do it is because you really need that job. And by needing that job's gonna be filled for the next 3 years. So giving out that money that's considered one-time money in raises is not beneficial to the district. And saving that money, $8.2 million in carry forward, helps you because you're not very solvent in Fund 10. So I tried to present to the IBM this picture that all these funds have to be viewed together and they all can interact with each other. And so our solvency in Fund 10 is really driven by our savings in the M&O carry forward pot. Am I doing okay so far? Any questions so far?
So by draining, luckily the short answer is by draining completely the Fund 10 money on an annual basis, that you're just fortunate enough the district has been able to save through offsetting different things over years. And that's where there's some extra money right there.
Correct. Here would be I'd be really nervous in this district. If this district had a very limited M&O carry forward and this solvency picture was here, I would be saying very different things in front of IBN and you right now. Which is our options are, I'm gonna give you options here in a second. Our options are less limited because you've been financially conservative in the M&O area. Does that make sense to you? If you had no M&O carry forward, or let's say $4 million M&O carry forward, which is approximately 10% of your annual budget, and you had this picture, I'd be saying we are in bad shape and we need to fix problems quickly. Yeah.
What was the initial reception from the IBN group when you made this presentation? Was it receptive or how was it received?
Well, I present things in a really neutral fashion. This is the data. I mean, I can't tell you any different than these AFR numbers were looked up off the AD website. Why are those 22 AFR numbers? Those aren't 22 AFR numbers because 22 AFR just got published in October. And so not everything was live when I did this presentation in September, right? Now I got to go back and look up all these 22 AFRs and see how much things have changed, but this is just the data. So I'm not here to judge. I'm not placing blame, shame, judgment on anything. I'm just trying to show you the pictures as they exist. And then I'm going to try to give you some solution sets that we can talk through as a team.
Which is great. How was your neutral presenting received by the IBN?
You can ask them. I mean, feel free to email the IBN committee. Donna Tejas, the CGE president, came up to me after the meeting. Jack was standing right over there. It was the last board. We had the meeting right before the last board meeting. and she thanked me for just the transparency and being upfront and thriving. Now, I don't know if that was every person's kind of reaction, but
Yes, please.
To that point, I'm not going to say I spoke to everyone, but I can tell you that I've had staff that were in that room as Dr. Strom and team worked through, we have decided we're going to continue to educate and then move the district in a positive direction. So with that information is power. And they were very receptive. Individuals that have been in your district, our district, for many years, said they've never understood it in the way in which Dr. Strom shared it. So that's growth. Doesn't mean everybody was excited about it. I didn't talk to everyone, so let's make that real clear. But the ones who approached me, I didn't ask them. They came to tell me how much they value what we're doing.
That's good. And I guess the bottom line is this, the numbers are the numbers.
Yes, sir.
There's only so much you can squeeze a rock, you can do whatever you want to do, but eventually the numbers are the numbers. It's gonna dictate whatever direction you have to do.
and so in that vein, we talked about three options. And,
I think.
oh, sorry, my apologies.
You might go over this, and I apologize if you are gonna touch on it, but, would you recommend that even though we have a lot of money in the M&O base, that we begin to kind of set aside more to have more in this fund as well?
So that's the options we gave you,
Yes, sir.
Okay.
right? Is, hey, here's the issue, right? Here's what we're dealing with, and now let's talk about what direction we can make now, policy says this. Policy says the IB team gets together, they make recommendations go to the superintendent, right? And then the superintendent brings recommendations to the governing board. So our job as an IBN team is to bring recommendations to Dr. Val, right? And so I said, hey, here's three examples, and I'm gonna walk you through those real quick here. Here's three examples, and their variation in between these examples, any variation could occur. But, I don't wanna give them infinite examples and take, hours upon hours explaining this. So here's three examples of kind of pathway forward to save more money or not save more money. So number one, right? Yes.
One question, has this been something that Taylor, we've talked about this quite a bit, just for clarification. The base pay for an incoming teacher at Casa Grande Union or in the district right now is what amount before we start talking?
Yes.
The base pay is 41,600, maybe a little bit of change, 650.
Could you remind us just really quick to where that ranks vis-a-vis other districts in the state?
I haven't gone through all 264 districts,
Ballpark it.
but ballpark, it's maybe the worst in the state of Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah. It's as low as I've seen. So, all right. So with that being said, okay, last year, teachers received, instructional people received $4,989 in base. That's where you're seeing that. That $4,989 came out of this fund and supported the $41,650 base salary. So out of that 4,000, I'm getting a little technical here.
Yeah, it's
right?
important that you do that because people are assuming that it's on top of, so.
Yeah. So $37,000 came from M&O, and I'm approximating, it's really a little less than 30,000, 36,000 and some change comes from M&O. $49,89 comes from Fund 10. Total, the base salary is $41,650. Good so far, okay? So one option is to use more Fund 10 to support the base salary, right? Use $2,000 more per employee to support the base salary and bump that to $69,89. Well, if only $4,989 was used for base salary, what was the other classroom site fund money used for? The other classroom site money was used for pay for performance, right? And pay for performance wise, district teachers in this district got almost $12,000 last year in pay for performance, okay? So that's relevant to this conversation because of the fact that this model right here sets PFP at $3,000, which is what a typical district will give in PFP, $3,000, $3,500. You can look it up. That's the typical value, open needs value for PFP. And the reason that two numbers are important, $5,000 to base pay, $12,000 in performance pay is because last year out of this fund, teachers took $17,000 home. Good? This model, look at 6,989, 7,000 plus 3,000, teachers are taking $10,000 home. And that was explained in the IBM process. The fact of the matter is, this very first model builds solvency quicker. That's what this number is. Remember how we said we had $184,000 in solvency? This in 1 year will get you up to $1.3 million in solvency. So if sales tax drops, you'll have a little bit of savings to absorb the drop for a couple of years. Good so far? The problem with this model, very transparently said at IBM, is that last year you took home $17,000. This year, that's a $10,000 take home out of these funds. $69.89 to base, $3,000 to performance-based pay. And by the way, that gets your base teacher salary in this district from $41,650 to $43,650. Good so far? Okay. All this stuff in between is a bunch of calculations in my world. I keep spreadsheets that model this out through 26, 27. I usually move about 5 years ahead of time on this. So I have models on the backside showing me where I think solvency can be 5 years from now. Model two. So now you're just going to see quick variations. And you'll see the difference between them really quickly. 4,989 in base goes to 8,989. That's 4,000 extra dollars in base pay to teachers. Your 41,650 becomes 45,650, a little more competitive. Base performance pay at $3,000, and guess what? That leaves you. What's the difference? You're spending more money. You're spending $89.89 plus $3,000. You're spending about $12,000 per employee. Your $17,000 becomes $12,000. That's less. You're building a little bit of solvency, right, in Fund 10. And oh, guess what? Your base teacher pay goes up to $45,650, but you have less solvency. It goes from 1.3 million to 872 after 1 year. Okay.
I'm sorry, really quick, I'm sure it's right in front of me, I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah.
Where on here do we see where the base pay is moving up to?
I don't have it in this presentation because of the fact that we're working through with IBM, but
You have a lot of other numbers too,
yeah. The really big way to calculate it is right now we're at 41,650, and see how base pay is going from 49.89 to 89.89. That's $4,000. You add $4,000 onto it.
Thank you.
Did I help you?
Yes,
All
thank you.
right. And the other thing you need to know is HR. With myself, we've had about 3 meetings so far. Mr. Casey, Ms. Belloc are working on getting together the salary schedules for next year. Because one of the other things we've told IBN is we hope by the end of our December meeting, we have all the salary schedules ready to go. Because in January, we need our principals, our assistant principals, our HR department to hit the ground running with brand new salary schedules. We can't go out with this year's salary schedules. We've got to go out with next year's salary schedules, because when they go out to handshake meetings, handshakes is a virtual platform where you can do job fairs, right? When they go to, let's say they go to a Midwest university to do some recruiting out of the Midwest, they're going to have to take new salary schedules with them, because putting 41,650 in front of people is going to not work. So we've already told IBN, and at this next meeting tomorrow, we're taking initial salary schedules to the IBN team and having a discussion. That's our second agenda item, is to have discussions on these next salary schedules, and then be prepared to bring them to the board.
And he's still working on getting away from a stepped salary schedule to
We are 100% working on getting away from a step salary schedule to a stepless salary schedule. That is actually what's happened throughout pretty much the whole state of Arizona, is moving to stepless salary schedules. And when you move to a stepless, you don't disincent the things that are on a separate salary schedule, you incent them differently. So, you move across horizontally on a step system with education. You're going to move in a stepless system based on education too. It's just not going to be by a step. It's going to be by, you got your master's degree. Guess what? We're going to add $4,000 to your salary because you now have your master's degree, which is of value to us as an organization. So I want you to know, when you move stepless, you're not incenting the things that were on the step system. You're just incenting them differently. So, all right. And that's going to go to IBM first, and then we'll be to the board to discuss that. Solution set 3 is to go ahead and increase 49.89 to 14,000 for base salary, right? And then move PFP down to $1,000. You move PFP that low. There are districts, Queen Creek Unified moved it to $500, Maricopa, I think it's at $250 the last I checked. Tempe Unions moved theirs down. That was the whole point of redoing the legislative bill. Most people are getting the funds anyways throughout the state of Arizona. Why not put it in the base and make our base salaries look more attractive as a state? So this is kind of modeling the purpose of the bill that was run in 21. That means now the advantage to teachers was clearly explained to them, to instructors, sorry, I should say. The 17,000 they garnered last year is now 14,000 plus 1,000, 15,000. A lot less impact to the back pocketbook. And by the way, it could eventually be no impact because we do have a little bit of 22, 23 M&O monies left that we will have to discuss with IBN and bring up to the board. So, bring up to the superintendent, who will then make recommendations to the board. So it could be that we get to no back pocket impact. The one deterrent in the solution set is it builds solvency slower, right? $180,000 in a single year that we build in solvency. It builds solvency a little slower. The advantage of this, do the difference there, that's about $9,000 from $49.89 to $41,650 plus $9,000 puts our base teacher pay at $50,650.
Which, just to be very clear, and again, I know you weren't prepared to answer this question, so just ballparking it, puts us, correct me if I'm wrong, at about average starting teacher pay in the state of Arizona, yes?
Yes, the average pay in the state of Arizona as measured by the Auditor General report last year was $55,000. That's the average pay, not the average starting pay.
Right.
Chandler Unified is at 52,500. I think Gilbert moved to 52. So we're in the ballpark of Mesa. I think Mesa's at 50 the last I checked. So we're in the ballpark of Mesa, Gilbert, Chandler Unified at that point with this solution set. Okay.
Cost of living.
So now to be fair to the IBN conversation, one of the disadvantages of this solution set is that teachers aren't going to get big lump sum payments 2 or 3 times a year, because that 14,000 is spread out in your biweekly payments.
But isn't there checks year long, and especially if you're a new teacher coming in, et cetera, and you're trying to live on a budget, et cetera, and housing costs, car, et cetera, like that, and help trying to wait and for blocks of money to come in is different than being a teacher that's been here for years on in time.
So, not that I'm the norm that everyone needs to measure themselves by. But my first teaching contract was for $24,000 in Gilbert Unified, right? Taught for 13 years. And, I had a very fiscally aware father who raised me. And he always told me, they're going to give you the option to take 22 pays or 26 pays. Take 22 pays. You know what you're doing with your money. You know how to budget, right? And the whole point being is, why would you let another organization hold on to your money for you when you can get your money through biweekly pays throughout the time? And so that's kind of the conversation we had, is that this allows you to get your money biweekly, and the other method allows us to hold on to your money and to give it. We're basically your budget manager for you. And you can argue which one's beneficial, not beneficial, and everyone can have their opinion. I just know that I don't prefer getting IRS loans and getting a huge tax credit at the end of the year. I'd rather have my money and invest it as I so wish. So.
Yeah, the other question is just, if you push that, so it's part of your base salary to teachers.
Yep.
That is all part of your base. If sales taxes take a drop in the future, they're covered.
If sales taxes take a drop in the future, this is where the conversation back to the M&O carry forward comes in.
Buffer in there.
Yeah.
Cover yourself.
So having $8.2 million in M&O carry forward becomes immensely important when we're in the position we are in this fund. If this is the option the IBN wants to go with, if this is the option Dr. Battle wants to recommend to the governing board, wonderful. I need the board, Dr. Battle and IBN, to be aware, if sales tax start to go down, this number we're contributing to base, 14,000, is going to have to go to 13,000 and 12,000. Where are you going to make up the differential? You're going to make up the differential with your M&O carry forward. That's where the M&O carry forward becomes your solvency savings for this fund, because it was just happened to not be built in the prior years. Did I do okay explaining that?
Yeah, and the other thing that's extremely hugely critical is passing an override on an annual basis.
So the difference between a carry forward and the override annually is the override is ongoing money that can be used for salaries and benefits, because it's ongoing money, not one-time money. So if that goes down to $13,000, $12,000, the M&O carry forward helps us get through a couple of years as we master plan the next 3 or 4 years and scramble to figure out our budgetary position. But it's not a long-run solution. The override is ongoing money, which provides ongoing support for salaries and benefits. And our override goes to advanced placement, our override goes to CTE programming, our override goes to security at the schools, right? But just understand how this all works. If we don't have the override to support those things, then
It's gotta come from
we have,
somewhere.
yes, it's very unlikely that we reduce people's salaries and benefits to get to those things. So we have to find other ways to fund those things, and oftentimes for like CTE and extracurricular programming, that comes in fees assessments to parents to garner those funds back to support those programmings. And then in security, you have tough decisions like, do we really think, the 5 to 9 security guard increase that's funded out of the override is something that's providing immense value to our school system? I think with the safety and security students that's been experienced this year, it probably is, but those are the tough budgetary positions you get put in when the override ongoing money is not there because you're.
Safety and security should never be
Correct.
should never be a question as far as one of the areas we're chopping
Correct.
when it comes to students and staff.
Correct.
Can I just ask a question? So that 180,000 for option 3, that goes in addition to the 186,000? So it almost doubles what we have in savings with that option, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Now, all these are estimates. I need to do my typical finance thing. We estimate, we forecast, right? If 3 or 4 employees, make it to November and don't make it through the rest of the year, it saves Fund 10 money. That number might be higher, right? If we get in a bind or we're trying to hire for the next year and get fully staffed for the next year and we hire a couple more teachers, that number can go lower because we've made a decision. We're trying to get fully staffed for next year and we wanted to hire a few teachers early. So I just need to put my financial, these are, only projections, and I do my best to project as best as I possibly can. So, all right, pros and cons, we kind of went through them all. Solution 1, builds Fund 10 solvency faster, right? PFP for all employee groups. It's been a position of the board, position of Dr. Battle, from what's been communicated to me, that we want pay for performance for all employee groups. We have the money to put pay for performance for all employee groups. If we build solvency quicker, we can fund pay for performance for instructional excellence coaches, pay for performance for counselors and those out of Function Code 2100 out of Fund 10 and not out of M&O. So if we build fund solvency faster, we can fund them out of Fund 10, right? So then you go all the way over here to solution set number 3. It builds solvency slower, and then in the PFP program for instructional excellence coaches, custodial staff, ground staff, all those, we're gonna have to fund that PFP program out of M&O at that point, because we won't have the leftover funds to fund PFP for all the other employee groups, okay? So these we all went through in this presentation, and then finally, short-term projections. I tried to give them some short-term projections for solution set 3, and essentially by the end of fiscal year 26, 27, we may have saved approximately $517,000 in this fund. This gets a little rough to project because you can see what I'm doing here. I am lowering at the very top $708 per ADM, right, is what we're getting this year. I'm only projecting $558 in 26, 27, right? I projected a decline in per student funding because there's an impending recession coming up. If you ever can get dialed in on how the economy is going to move, I have a portfolio. If you can get it really dialed in, please come meet with me, talk with me, because I'd love to get my investment strategies aligned to your perfect projections of economic indicators. So essentially 708 to 558, and then you also have to project how much your student population is going to increase. So I say, hey, we might grow by about 600 kids over the next 6 years, 100 kids a year. And so you get how I'm trying to explain how difficult it is to project, but maybe we'll have $500,000 to $600,000 saved up in that account based on projections. Okay, so that's that. One final thing. Then we went into Fund 10 and the IBM, Fund 01 and IBM process. We talked about contingency funds. I've already told you about contingency funds in here, $8.2 million in M&O. We also then talked about contingency funds in food service, about $2.9 million. And we made sure that IBN knew that money's there, but it's restricted. And so we have to use that in specific places. We have some neat projects Dr. Battles brought and communicated with the board, redoing some cafeteria space at Union, redoing some cafeteria space and cafe space at Union, redoing cafe space at Vista. I want to be transparent with IBM, that 2.9 really can't be used at all on teacher salaries. And then we have about $2.8 million in capital carry forward, and I need them to know that, hey, it's there. And by law, you can take capital and move it over to M&O. Hardly any district moves money that way because M&O is all ongoing expenses. So you don't want to take one-time expenses. Most of your capital purchases are one-time expenses. And you don't want to take one-time money and spend it on ongoing salaries and benefits. And then I'll just be frank, listen, the BRG, the SFOP, School Facility Board came out, evaluated the roof at Union, and we're going to need to re-roof that thing. So on a re-roof, we're hoping to get a building renewal grant for it. Mr. Belloc is working his tail off with his team to get that building renewal grant. And the initial estimate on the roof came in at $3.9 million, right? Here's the deal on that. We're going to go get BRG money because we only have $2.8 million saved up in capital. So we're going to go get BRG money to fund that, and hopefully they approve it within the next month. But let's say we didn't have the option to go BRG money. All $2.8 million is gone in a second.
And that was the clarification we were talking about the other day. The 13 million that's kind of been floating out there is that the district has funds that are available. Specifically, the one, the 2.9 has a home specifically that has to be used towards the cafeteria, et cetera. The 2.8 is capital. And then the 8.4 is kind of a mixture. So as far as when somebody approaches you and says, on the override, well, you got excess money. You don't have excess money.
It's tough to tell people, but that's the truth. That's just the truth.
However, if I might add, Mr. Ennis, you were spot on with everything you just said. And I just want to say to the governing board that, and also Dr. Strom and team, this is complex. School finance is not anything easy. So we want to be careful, and you all are attending and paying close attention to what Dr. Strom, and you're doing your homework. And we appreciate that, because if you don't have the right information, the public is not going to have the right information. And you've done exceptionally well, asking great questions, and we ask that you continue to do that. We're holding tight to the timeline that we said we do regarding classroom site funds and pay for performance. But we've also recognized that it's very important that we don't have them siloed because they touch one another. We have no problem, Dr. Strom and I, in our one-on-ones. If you'd like to, we can have another, as we've done in the past, for quite sensitive things, so that you can become even more of a champion of this information, because our public doesn't understand it. And if they're not listening or taking note to what we're talking about here today, it's going to put us in jeopardy, because people aren't going to understand the complexity of school finance. So I say that very clear because it's really important that we fuel you with accurate information.
So here's the takeaway from IBM meeting Tuesday tomorrow. I'm hoping to get to a resolution with the IBM team on what we want to do with classroom site fund, because the December payout is like right around the corner. And I just need you all aware that we may be working with Dr. Battle to call, if we get to resolution with IBM, we may be working with Dr. Battle to see if y'all are open to calling a special session just for resolution on, these are the amounts that we approve for class, because you're the only one that can approve us paying out anything. These are the amounts we approve for classroom site fund performance-based pay program.
I don't think it's a question that the board is committed to this from the beginning, and the number one thing is making sure this gets done in a timely fashion. And this is, of all the things that the board is responsible for, this is one of the fiduciary duty of the district is the number one, truly one of the number one things that needs to be done. So,
Doctor, really quick, sorry, before you pack up all the way, I had one more question. I think Joe does too. And forgive me, I may just be processing it slowly. So if you answered it while I was thinking, I apologize for making you repeat yourself. But I'm looking back over the solutions. I just want to make sure I'm clear on solution number 3. Was there a reason, outside of your, desire to get people their money in their own pocket quickly? Is there a reason other than that this solution alone has their wages delivered bi-weekly rather than in a lump sum?
So, let me see if I am hearing your question.
I asked because tell me if I'm reading this wrong. It looks, just looking at the little graph, that solution 1 and 2, those payments are still made there's still a bonus, or I shouldn't use the word bonus, but a
$3,000.
Right.
Yeah.
But in solution 3, that is paid bi-weekly instead.
No, so.
Oh, it's not. I misunderstood.
Let me clarify. The base salary components in solution 1, 2, and 3 are all paid bi-weekly, the base salary components. The PFP components are all paid lump sum, right? $1,000 divided by 2 payments, one in December and one in May, is $500 payment. It won't be as big of a one-time payment as $3,000 would be, which is $1,500 in December and $1,500.
Gotcha. So there is still a one-time payment component
To every one of those
to
options.
every one of those options. It's just smaller in option 3.
Correct.
Thank you. Good. Want to make sure.
Quickly, you talked about salaries quite a bit, and I'm looking at the other graph on healthcare benefits, real important in this day and age. Just give me a synopsis of a teacher coming in with a child or 2. Is that teacher going to be having the benefits of healthcare for the 2 kids and that parent, or is that going to be something that can be supplement pay for the 2 kids after?
Yeah, those teachers are going to have to pay for their 2 kids beyond the district. For every employee covers full benefits. And we probably should get in that conversation at some point. That is unique. There's only 2 districts that I know of right now who pay full cost of benefits for every employee, no matter what plan you are on. One's Cascade Elementary, or Cascade Union, and one is Mesa, right? Most other districts have followed the letter of the law to the T, which is you have to provide one plan for free to the employee. So when an employee opts into a PPO program, that is considered an add up, right? So the district says, we're gonna contribute $7,000. You opted into a PPO program that's $8,200. The extra $1,200 comes out of your check and a deduction, right? Because we're only committing $7,000, okay? The way that plays out, that is another way that, just to be frank to the data, that's another way districts are raising their base teacher pay, because they're capping their contribution to supply one free, typically HDHP program, high deductible health plan program, to the employees. And they say, if you want free insurance, that's your program. Anything else will cost you up. So in terms of the 2 kids, every district in the state of Arizona is going to cover the employee with at least one free program. This district allows people to select into a PPO, right? And that they cover the full cost of the PPO as well, okay? So
The district covers the full cost of the PPO?
full cost of the PPO. And let me tell you how that works out. District commits $7,300 for health insurance. Don't talk dental, don't talk vision. I opt into a plan that's an HDHP plan, high deductible health plan, $2,500. That means maximum $2,500 out of pocket, right? And that premium's $5,300. The difference, $7,300 to $5,300, that $2,000 difference goes to my HSA. So I'm still getting $7,300. I'm just getting $1,500 premium and $2,000 from HSA. The person that opts in the PPO, right? The full $7,300, the district's committee is going to their premium. They get no money in HSA because they use all their premiums. So that's how you're being fair to employees, right? Other districts, they'll commit $7,000 to benefits. The $2,500 HDHP program is $6,500. The $500 differential goes to their HDHP program, but then the PPO program is $7,900, $8,200, and the difference gets paid by the employee. Okay, so for those 2 kids, the employee's covered, and the 2 kids would be considered a buy-up on behalf of the employee, and they'd have to pay premium. And yeah, it's all those problems and solutions are very concerning in the healthcare industry right now because healthcare costs continue to rise. So, thank you.
The district offers it available to an employee,
Sure.
so they can cover their kids, but they don't pay for dependents, correct? They don't pay for dependents.
Who does not pay?
District.
Oh,
The
no.
district does not pay, you are 100% correct. The district does not pay for dependents, the employee pays for the dependents.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That is huge, thank you so very much. Any other comments or questions from that? Thank you very much.
Yep.
Board self-evaluation. And we just gotta file these, that would basically do?
Well, I mean, since you're having a retreat in December, you're supposed to kind of
Discuss this.
go over them and then maybe put some goals together to maybe talk about at the retreat, because for your board goals.
And if I might, I think it's important as we all have reflections as part of our evaluation. And it is important. That's how we get better. And I think to give honor to everyone, however you want to do it, when you want to do it. I wouldn't suggest you just fast.
Yeah, and I think, 100%, and I think we have to talk about this. And so just to have it kind of swept underneath the points is not correct. So the question is, only if all board members are willing to commit to being there at the December 6th meeting and putting this at the front end of the meeting and talking about this before we get into any other discussion?
I'm fine with that.
Is that a commitment? I mean,
Yeah, sure.
December 6th? That's a commitment that everybody will be here in person to discuss these?
Up to 2 to 6 p.m.
2 to 6.
2 to 6 p.m. Okay.
You better have it.
Kelly, you're the
They have
reason.
a board meeting. It's in conjunction with the board meeting at that time.
Okay, front end of the meeting is this. Before we get into any discussion, who's the lady who's presenting it?
Bacon.
Julie Bacon's coming?
And if I might ask this, and just being full transparency, life happens, we don't have a crystal ball. But if not, I would ask that we add it to the next board meeting. We don't have 100% participation, and we add it to the next one because it's really important that all 5 of you participate.
Yeah, I think there's some critical issues on this that have to come out. And I think it's very important that we bring it up to a head and put it out on the table so that everybody understands and they're concerned. Specifically that we have going forward and with the district and the board is dealing with as far as some of the information and disinformation that's floating out of the community. So is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll move.
Move to adjourn. And then give us about 5 minutes and we'll start our next meeting.
Do you need these
You
physical
want me to
copies?
collect those?
Yeah.
Or you guys want to take them with
It
you?
does need to be flipped. We're gonna go ahead and call this, regular board meeting to my brain just went. I'm trying to say it's 6:40, we're gonna go ahead and call this to order. Mayor, if you call roll, please.
Okay. Mr. Kirby?
I'm here.
Mr. Lopez?
Here.
Mr. Hennis?
Here.
Mr. Wright?
Here.
Ms. Harrington? Here.
That being said, we're down to item B, which is pledge of allegiance. If we'd all stand, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a quick moment of silence, if we could, please, before we start. Thank you. If we could please, first item up is to adopt the agenda as presented.
I move we adopt the agenda as presented.
Motion by Taylor and a second by Chuck. Any other questions? Mary, call for vote, please.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Ms. Harrington?
Yes. Lots of H's.
That motion passes. We also have before you, you have the minutes from our prior meeting, September 27th and October 11th, 22 is presented. We can get a motion to approve those minutes as presented.
I move we approve the minutes, that are listed on the agenda, three sets of minutes as presented.
There's a motion by Chuck. Is there a second to that, please? And a second by Kelly. Any other further discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and call for the vote, please.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Harrington?
Yes.
Thank you. And Dr. Bell, we're down
Yes,
to
sir.
recognition students of the month, please.
Very good. I know that Mr. Dancy is not here this evening, so we're going to move the best of students back. If I could have Mr. Mapp and also Ms. Miller be on deck, and we will recognize our amazing students this evening and their parents. Oh yes, very good. And also Ms. Dancy. Thank you. Very good. Okay.
Good evening, Board President, Board Members, Superintendent Bell. We're super excited to be here. With us, we have Ella Barth and one of our counselors helping us to recognize our Rotary Student of the Month. We'd also like to take the moment to recognize some of her support system. She's the daughter of Christina and the late Benjamin Barth, and Mrs. Barth is here, so we appreciate her coming up, and we'd like to give her a round of applause. I heard there was a little arm twisting because both of her brothers are in football, and I'm not sure they wanted out of practice so much, but she's been such a great example. I think Mom said, no, you gotta be here. So we appreciate the family and the support and what they do. And Ella has indeed been that kind of example for her siblings, but also for our community. What's really neat about her is that she's excelled academically in class and outside of the class. And so honor roll every year. Looks like she'll be honor roll and beyond again this year. AP student, she started doing that even back in as a sophomore. She's taken AP World History, AP Language Arts and Composition, AP US student, US History. She's been in pre-calculus and received the Academic Excellence Award in pre-calculus. She's done AP Calculus, AP Computer Science, and it goes on and on and on. Additionally, she has been part of the engineering, technology, and design, came in first place for the state her sophomore year. When I asked her about all of the different things that she could brag about, what she's most proud of, I think it's a lot of the work she's done in CTE and Skills USA, and so excited for the programs that we have. She's worked with Mr. Morris, who's been one of our CTE teachers in that area as well. She's competed in the Skills USA National Championship in 2021 for the engineering, technology, and design. She competed again where she was also one of the division presidents. Interestingly, they get to do sub-competitions, and so she won 4th place in engineering, tech, and design for the state in extemporaneous speaking. So I think it's only appropriate that we ask her to speak in front of you for a few minutes.
About 45 minutes on the clock.
She's also been a student council member, students council leader. She's also a youth leader outside of school, and so she's very proud of her work that she does for her church group and her church youth group at Passion Church. She works with the NASA Ascent Project member, National Honor Society member, and just so much more. In fact, probably the proudest accomplishment is that she planned on going to ASU. She said she's a little undecided what she went to ASU was one of them. Right, so she said after high school, she plans to attend ASU School of Engineering. Exactly, and study for a bachelor's degree. I think she'll go far beyond a bachelor's degree in computer science engineering. But she says it's a toss-up between Ohio State and ASU right now. So we're just super proud of her, and I'd like to congratulate her at this time. Congratulations. Let's take a picture of Okay, we're gonna get a picture of the superintendent.
Here, Mr.
Okay, you can get.
And Jack, I move that if she goes to Ohio State, we take the thing back.
I tell you what, you
I see a second, right, you're a second.
got a really good afternoon, just a little bit further south.
1, 2, 3. They go down.
That was great.
You gotta do the walk.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, though.
Gentlemen,
Congratulations.
Send a picture of this.
I will.
I know, that's what she said. She said that, send a picture to her.
I will. That Notre Dame's a good school too.
Good evening, Board President and Dr. Battle. How are you?
Good.
Colin. So I have to say, Colin's attitude and his internal motivation is truly inspiring and amazing to me. I'm going to read just a little bit about who he is as a person, and the more I found out about him, the more I completely understand and applaud you for being right here. Colin carries a cumulative GPA of a 3.36 while maintaining a part-time job with Frito-Lay and merchandising. Colin is a former captain of his middle school football team, and he has a passion for finding out how to build electronics, understanding how they work, and seeing what's possible. It is important to mention that Colin has built his own PC from scratch by puzzling and piecing parts together, doing extensive research and trial and error. Colin has also dabbled with furniture construction by building his own desk and staging it with his own hands. So his home end of a workspace has been created all by hand. Colin comes from a hardworking family, and he attributes his motivation for the hard work to that of both his parents. From his dad owning a family business called Brown's Welding Supplies, to his mother managing to be a nurse with 4 kids. She most recently acquired her cosmetology license to do hair as a pursuit of her passion. Colin states that his career goal is to become a pilot, and he is currently considering opportunities with the military, Central Arizona Community College, and Arizona State University, where he was one of the 17 senior students from Innova that got pre-accepted into ASU. Colin has worked during the summer with his dad, grandparents, older brother, and in the family business. And one of the most important projects that he has helped build was a livable overhead office with an AC unit. That's awesome. What he learned from that project is that even if something doesn't come out perfect, to keep trying until you get it right. His advice for other students is to teach yourself if you don't know how to do something, and find a reason to be motivated every day, whether that's through finding out what your passion is or following a blueprint from a role model that inspires you. Congratulations. Yeah, you were saying you can call him up. Yeah.
Come on.
I'm glad that they come.
The little one.
Bring them all.
Yeah. Awesome. Congratulations. Well, come on. Such a little legend. Yes.
Great picture.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Vaness, board members, Dr. Battle, parents, teachers, administrators, everybody. This is always one of those wonderful things I get to do every month. And tonight, I'm going to first honor a Vista Grande student in construction technologies, Jonathan Ventura. Come on up. And tonight, Jonathan is here with his mother, Diana Vega. I have a special affinity for Jonathan. He was one of my students in marketing. I recognized the name before I got here, and when he walked in, I thought, oh my goodness, he got a lot taller in 3 years. It happens, right? But his teacher, Jeff St. Clair, over at Vista, has some wonderful things to say about him in the construction technology program. Jonathan maintains a high standard of excellence in his work. He asks questions and stays open to learn new techniques and processes for the construction trades. Jonathan works without the need for supervision. He takes the lead where appropriate and is a team player. So all those great things that I taught you in marketing, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a picture with the sisters.
What we doing for Kim? Oh, no.
I have to say, this young man has been an administrator, teacher, principal, everything, so that's awesome. That's well.
Okay, here we go. And now my camera. Okay,
Appreciate it.
Congratulations, man.
So we will hold on to the honoree for next time from you.
We're down to employee recognition.
We're gonna move that one to next month.
For next month, Ms.
No,
Chris?
for, the first employee.
Oh, but the one in the board doc will do.
You betcha. If we could, we received a letter on 10/13 from the Government Finance Office Association, announcing that, Certificate of Achievement for Excellence Financial Reporting goes to Casa Grande Union High School District Number 82. When a certificate of achievement is awarded to a government, an award of financial reporting achievement, AFRA, is also presented to the individual department designated by the government as primary responsible for having earned the certificate. This award has been sent to the submitter as a designation of that application. It said, we hope we'll arrange for a formal presentation, so this evening we are doing a formal presentation to the finance department of achievement of excellence in financial reporting for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2021 for the government finance. And there's a formal announcement, Jody, that will come to you.
Very good. So what I'd like to do is have all the members of the business department. Wally, come on up, please. As they come. just want to say, it's a recess fence, but it's also security and confidence in the work of this department that's foundational to the success. So if we didn't have you do what you do on a regular basis and gain the attention to detail that you do, under the support of Dr. Strom and what you do on the regular, not only together and a few more that aren't here this evening. From me to you, I say thank you and congratulations for this wonderful work. Dr. Strom.
Strong to the.
You made me give my mama
You just got the look.
We could have one of just Dr. Strong.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Yay.
Come on, make the watch, Rose.
Walk of shame.
Watch, you gotta walk.
That's gotta get
Oh, thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations,
Thank you
guys.
so very much.
Thanks for the good work.
Man, I thought you were about to get the hand on the hip there for a second.
Get that mom thing going here. You're in deep trouble.
It's funny you say that. He called me last night in the middle of Halloween and he sounded like one of my boys. I was like, which one of you are calling me? He sounded just like
Dr. Battle, we're down to the superintendent's report.
fun stuff. Lots of great things. One thing that's happening tonight, our Vista girls volleyball team is in the playoffs and that hasn't happened. I had the pleasure of watching them play and I tell you, those young ladies are competitive and game after game, they continue to improve. Coach Tui and assistant coaches, students lively on the bench, they just had a great season. So we hope that continues. We wish them well. Additionally, Dr. Evans and Dr. Even and I had a chance to go visit with, I call my superintendent ambassadors. And they are a lively, wonderful bunch of students that have the best interests of this district in mind. And we were able to talk to them about what kind of incentives would be useful and helpful and meaningful for improvement in ACT performance, on their benchmark performance, on attendance and tardies. They had some great things that we're gonna build upon, and that voice is valuable. So I wanna thank them for their time, and also for the assistant principals that are rotating them from campus to campus month over month. Volleyball senior night was October 27. Again, congratulations to all of the seniors from both schools. This one's particularly from Vista. Canal Prep Performer of the Week, El Sonora, if I'm saying that correctly, again, was named Canal Prep Performer of the Week. He's the quarterback there. He threw 195 yards and 1 touchdown to go along with rushing touchdown and 69 yards against Horizon. So that was a wonderful thing. And Coach Lunas had a tough year, but a great year. You always have to start somewhere, and he's building young men in their talent to be great men in the future. Casa Grande Fall Invitational, they finished second place. You know what? They're just gonna stay hungry. The last 2 invitationals, the band has been second, all good. It's not over yet. So let's just see how the season ends, but I'm always proud of the students. Their performance is amazing. If you haven't had a chance to see it, I suggest you just get out there at halftime and check it out, because they're doing a great job. Let's see here. The Vista Marching Band on October 29th, they competed in the Fall Invitational and earned 3rd place in the 2A category. So that's big time too. So we appreciate all they're doing under Mr. Flores. Homecoming was last week. Yes? Yes. Okay, at Vista. This week at Union, always a lot of energy happening. And we hope that they continue to have a great week with the parade and game and all that good stuff. And dance this weekend. Powder Puff game was a big hit. I had conflict that particular night, so I wasn't able to see it, but I understand it was a 14-14 and just a big crowd out there. So I'm glad no one got hurt. We're happy about that. Some young ladies are playing some football, right? So that's good stuff. And then the ACT Aligned Progress Check. We're all about our business. As you all know, the grades were published, and we're ready to rebound and really do a great job. So more to come there, as I've communicated with you in the past. Let's see, that mastery check absolutely is a part of our culture, and it's what we'll do. Lots and lots of things I'll add to the weekly PC, so I can let us go right now, but I'd be remiss not to say that steak fry at Union was fabulous. Thank you, Mr. Farnsworth, thank you, Mr. Mapp, and students and parents and community. It was really, really a great experience. Personally, I was able to see and meet a number of educators from Casa Grande for many, many, many years now. And that was my pleasure to be able to see that. Also, the FFA received Living to Serve grant, which additional funds of $1,200 is always very helpful. And so again, a number of things that are happening positive at our campuses on the regular. And I appreciate the leadership, students and staff and community for your 100% support. Oh, yes.
Is this the appropriate time?
Yes, sir. Please do.
To read this?
Yes.
There's been some different inquiries. We just wanted, as a board, we wanted to answer specifically this one about some confusion and some misinformation that's floating around out there and some personal attacks. And we thought we would answer this based on that. Dear Mr. Ging, thank you for your inquiry regarding Casa Grande Union High School District's enrollment process. We follow the requirements of Arizona federal law, including the Arizona Department of Education's 2019 Arizona Residency Guidelines. ADE's guidance provides practical advice for public schools to ensure our enrollment processes are legally compliant. Under these guidelines and similar guidelines from the U.S. Department of Justice and the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights issued in 2014, the district is authorized to request photo identification to ensure that the adult seeking to enroll the child is entitled to do so. Our request for photo identification is not used to unlawfully bar a student from enrolling in school. We request a driver's license, photo ID, but do not require them, as photo IDs are reliable and convenient ways to determine the student resides in the district and that the person enrolling the student has the legal authority to do so.
Can you read that last sentence one more time?
We request driver's license / photo ID, but do not require them, as photo IDs are reliable and convenient ways to determine the student resides in the district, that the person enrolling the student has the legal authority to do so. As stated on our website, we do not use these photo IDs to determine citizenship. If the person enrolling the student does not want to provide a driver's license or a photo ID, there are other ways to properly show residency and custody. We will also accept any government-issued identification, foreign or domestic. In addition, per ADE guidelines, the district will also accept any one of the following from a parent or guardian that maintains his or her own residence: a valid Arizona motor vehicle registration, a valid Arizona address confidentiality program authorization card, property deed, mortgage documents, property tax bill, rental agreement or lease, a utility bill, a bank or credit card statement, a W-2 wage statement, a payroll statement, certificate of tribal enrollment, a 506 form, or other identification issued by a recognized Indian tribe located in Arizona. Other documentation from a state, tribal, or federal agency, Social Security Administration, Veterans Association. Temporary on-base building facility also for military families. Finally, if the parent or legal guardian does not maintain his or her own residence, the district also accepts a properly completed affidavit of shared residency form along with a document from the list above bearing the name and address of the person who maintains the residence. Again, all of these options help us verify residency within the district and the lawful custody of the student. None of these options are used to determine citizenship, as all students, regardless of citizenship, are entitled to a public education. We hope this addresses your concerns. Please let us know if you have any further questions, and thank you.
Thank you very much for reading that. I just have to say that our staff that supports registration has not denied anyone. It's really important that the public knows that. So thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you. We have, next up is Thank you, Dr. Beth, for your report. This call to the public. You want to read that, please, Neely?
Sure.
Thanks.
Request to speak to the governing board pursuant to ARS 38-431.02H. The board may make an open call to the public during a public meeting, subject to a reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions to allow individuals to address the public body on any issues within the jurisdiction of the public body. At the conclusion of an open call to the public, individual board members may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the board, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the board shall not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. During an open call, the board requests the speakers refrain from voicing complaints against school personnel or other person connected within the district, as it may impact due process rights. Policies KE, KEB, and KED are provided by the board for disposition of legitimate complaints, including those involving individuals.
Thank you very much. We have just one card, Steve Hayes, and it's in regards to general comments. Steve, if you come forward, please. And we give about 3 minutes, Steve.
Good evening and thank you. I'm not going to take up too much time, but I've said it a few different times to this board where there's smoke, there's fire. And at this point, it's really getting to the point where not only is there smoke, but to keep using that analogy, the building is fully involved and the flames are coming out the window. To continue to refer to multiple former employees as spreading misinformation is an insult to them and really is calling them liars. And it's also an insult to the intelligence of the people in the community who are concerned about what's going on, who are invested in this district and are concerned about its students and its employees. And they're wanting to see action out of the board, and frankly, they're not seeing it. And so I'm here to voice their concerns and to let you know that people are noticing and they want to see some action out of this board. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. We're down to item under 6A, policy revision, first reading.
Yes, sir. Dr. Even is going to present the policy revision.
I promise to be brief. We have one recommended revision that has been recommended by ASBA to policies JLCB and JLCBR as adopted by, those were policies that were adopted in our September board meeting. And ASBA has recommended a change due to some inconsistencies between the policy and JLCB and JLCBR, the regulation regarding the specific list of required vaccines. And so the proposed policy was rewritten by ASBA so the policy JLCB refers to the regulation JLCBR, in which the list approved by the Department of Health is the accurate list of immunizations. So we are recommending approval of this. It does not impact our current policy anymore, or current practice.
This is our first reading.
This is just the first reading of this, correct?
Yes.
And just for clarification, so we all know, these are mandates that come down from the state legislature that get funneled into policies.
Yes, so there's a legislation, and then ASBA, the Arizona School Boards Association, then makes policy recommendations to us and for governing boards to adopt based on the legislations that have been passed.
And if I might ask, thank you for that reminder, Mr. Dennison. When all school districts receive these at the beginning of the year and sometimes throughout the year, we all have seen the legislation of possible and proposed policy. I keep you informed of that. It's also important, again, to communicate accurate information. There is no hidden agenda from this administration, nor would I ever submit anything to you all underhanded because I'm using policy for my own personal agenda. I just want to make that clear because that has been a clear accusation coming from the board. Remember, so it's important that I share that with you. Thank you.
Okay, you have a motion to approve the first reading of policy revision JLCB, installation of students as presented. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Taylor moved and Joe seconded. Is there any other discussion with that? If not, we'll go ahead and call for the vote, Mary, please.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Ms. Harrington?
Yes.
You have item B before you, which is amendment to an MOU memorization of understanding with Gear Up NAU. Dr. Bell?
Yes, Dr. Strong will, the next 3 to 4 will address as we move forward.
Mr. President, members of the board, Europe's been in this district for several years. This is just an amendment. It's an amendment to include some stipends. As you are aware, we cannot pay out stipends without governing board approval. These funds are funded from Gear Up and NAU, so they're not even district funds, but they come to us and we can't pay them out through payroll. So basically, people are in these roles doing this work for Gear Up, and we can't pay them out through payroll unless these stipends are approved.
Okay. This is an annual kind of thing that you do. Do you have another one that comes up with the next one, the upward bound, this kind of similar-ish to this?
Very, very good. Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the amendment and grant stipends in the memo of Gear Up NAU as presented?
Move we approve the Gear Up memorandum of understanding.
There's a motion by Chuck. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Kelly, second. Any other discussion? Mary, go ahead and call for the vote, please.
Okay, Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
Dr. Strong, go again.
The same story.
It's almost an identical same story. This is just a different program through Central Arizona, upward bound. It encourages summer enrollment in college classes for kids here on campuses. And then also includes some programming throughout the year where upward bound representatives come on our campuses and support kids.
It's a great program.
That's a huge program.
Great. Is there a motion to approve this, the upward bound MOU as presented?
I'll move.
Taylor moved. Second. Chuck second. Any other questions? If not, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. Mary, please.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
Dr. Strong, a little bit of CMR.
Mr. President, members of the board, a construction manager at risk RFP was released as per governing board approval at a prior board meeting. We spent the course of the last month evaluating RFP submissions from approximately, if I remember correctly, 7 submitters of general contractors throughout the state of Arizona. An evaluation team consisting of an outside architect and an outside general contractor. By law, they have to be on the evaluation team. Evaluated the responses, and as well as 3 internal employees. And after evaluation across 2 separate rubrics, including an interview rubric and a written documentation rubric, we recommend approval to award construction manager at risk to Chase Building renovation PACE Academy. PACE Academy, as a side note, I can't say this enough, is a new learning opportunity academy for students here in Casa Grande. We continue to grow. Our 2 high schools are continuing to reach maximum capacity, and the space here at the district office student-wise is not as optimized as it has been in past years of the Board Protected Building. And PACE is a program that we were awarded a grant for last year. Mrs. Danzy and Dr. Battle are currently working through the design of what PACE Academy looks like to accelerate career exploration. And in the end, these renovations are student space renovations here at the district office of the vocational education technology space.
Chuck, you were kind of big on the PACE stuff. I mean, as far as where we have the plumbing school downstairs, et cetera.
Yeah.
This was the career, et cetera.
Yeah.
This was one of your kind of things that you was really thoughtful of.
Is this a design build with these two groups?
No, we did not go to design build route. The reason we did not go to design build route is because we had no drawings to date. And so
Okay.
typically, when your drawings are limited, your 2 options are to go job order contracting, or you work with your architect for 6 months and then you get your drawings in place and then you go job order the contract. And the other option is to invite the architect and the construction manager risk into the relationship with the owner, which is us, and we work through monthly meetings, bi-weekly meetings to get design stood up at the same time.
Are we bringing the architect and the contractor in together here?
Correct, and so the
Why
architect,
can't it be a design build?
why can it not be a design build?
Why can't it be a design build?
Typically in the design build process, the disadvantage is we will hire the contractor and then the contractor signs contracts with the architect.
I thought we're already hiring a contractor right now with this movement.
We are, and we've already brought in the architect. So
Okay.
the architect is DLR.
Okay.
DLR is
Okay.
kind of renowned throughout the state of Arizona as the premier designer of learning spaces. If this was a ground up build, then there's other architects that are probably better in the ground up build space. DLR is a premier learning space
Okay.
designer. So, DLR didn't have to go through the procurement process that the CMAR went through because DLR has bid to a consortium bid called One GPA. So on One GPA is a consortium bid, and it's got a list of people that have already been procured according to their bid pricing and have guaranteed us lowest bid pricing. There's about, I don't want to overquote this, there's about 8 to 9 architects on the One GPA contract that we can just select off of. So we have the architect, DLR, we have the construction manager at risk, Chase, if the board approves tonight, and then us as an owner, and we're gonna work through that design process.
Yeah.
The advantage of the CMAR process is that as the architect designs, the CMAR will often have different materials choices, different options for building that allow us to drive down costs. And so the architect has to take feedback from the contractor. At the same time, they're taking feedback from the owner and what we want as a final product. And then we can come up with better material choices, engineering choices. And, you know, conduit runs have been something we've come into contact in the past and prior builds that I've helped with, where we can design IT rooms, MDF, IDF rooms with lower conduit runs, and therefore we save money on the linear foot of conduit running throughout a building. And all those things come up because of the fact that we're all sitting in the room together. Whereas in a design build, we hire a contractor, they hire the architect, and then kind of we trust that the contractor is going through that process with the architect.
So when can we expect first preliminary?
Yeah, so we put the CMAR team on a really tight time frame.
Okay.
And the reason being is
So
because.
next week?
The reason being is, the hope is for Mrs. Danzy, Dr. Babb, Dr. Newman, the hope is to have this thing fully open and in July 23 and not really be completing phase 1 much past July 23. So the kids can be in a fully functional space. There will probably be phase 2 and phase 3 projects,
Yeah.
but we want phase 1 to be fully functional July 23. With that being said, there's I shouldn't say zero, that's a no event, that's not a good statement. There is limited probability that if we don't get the GMP, guaranteed maximum price in front of this board in a relatively quick manner, that in the short supply chain market, that we'll be able to get everything done by July 23.
Will
So
we have drawings before the end of the year, or surely after?
we currently are telling DLR and the CMAR team who puts the guaranteed maximum price together, that our goal is December 6th, the board meeting, to have stuff.
December 6th, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Most of these, the constructions, they're done CMAR anyway, and there's so much of it done these days, is because we can go into the bidding, et cetera.
Yeah, so the disadvantage of what you'll learn in the market, when you go hard bid, when you go design build, right? Oftentimes you'll invite lawyers into the process. And the reason you invite lawyers into the process is if it's not part of the architectural drawing, then ends up what happens is you get change orders.
Change orders.
And you're gonna fight, then you're gonna fight over change orders over and over again, and then in the end, you're paying $300, $400, $500 an hour for your lawyer, they're paying for their lawyer, you're fighting over who is right on whether there should have been a change order, not a change order, whether the drawings included something or not. And so I will tell you, of the buildings I was involved in Chandler, of the buildings I was involved in Queen Creek, 100% were CMAR. So,
Yeah, when we did Mystic Grande, it was CMAR. It's just weird. The first time you hear it, CMAR, construction manager at risk, it's just like, so why are we hiring this guy?
Yeah.
It just sounds, do you want to make a motion to approve this as presented?
I make a motion, we approve this board of contract.
Motion by Chuck and a second by Kelly. Any other question? Mary, call for the vote, please.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennessy?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
Continuing with that theme is the architectural services for the renovation of the Pace Academy space.
Mr. President, members of the board, we originally procured the initial services from DLR off consortium, and their bid was of such that we didn't have to bring it to the board because it was underneath $100,000. That was for the initial work. Now we're getting to the point where we're starting to see the price point come in, and the price point we think for this total project, we're gonna try to keep underneath $1.5 million in total construction costs, right? Architects are procured off consortium with their rates and fees already set. And so now that we know that total construction cost, we know the total cost is gonna be probably close to $160,000. The attachment explains by DLR their costs split out, and by procurement law, it's over $100,000, and I don't feel comfortable without governing board approval proceeding forward at that price point at $100,000 or more. So recommend approval. This is for the architectural fees, running at approximately 7.7% for renovation work. We've been vetted through the one GPA process.
With an amount not to exceed of 160.
Yeah, you will see an item that we bring to you in business from here on out with construction involved. My tendency is to always put amount not to exceed. So then when the contractor or the architect come back and ask for extensions, I say, hey, I can't go over this amount. And if you need to go over this amount, we're gonna have a conversation with our governing board. And that helps us protect ourselves as a district.
That's great. Is there a motion to approve this?
Someone,
Motion by Chuck. Is there a second?
I will say.
Joe seconded. Any other discussion on that? If not, we'll go ahead and Mary, call for the vote, please.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennessy?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
yes.
And Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
We are down to item 7, which is the consent agenda. We have items A through G. Is there anybody anything we need to pull or not pull?
I move we approve consent agenda in its entirety A through G.
I will second.
Motion is seconded by Chuck and then Taylor seconded. Any other questions or discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and call for the vote, Mary, please.
Okay, Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennessy?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mrs. Harrington?
Yes.
Thank you. Seeing no further items to come before the board, it is 7:25 and we will adjourn. Thank you for being here this evening.
Oh.